Laziness and procrastination are not just bad habits. They are some of the biggest obstacles to self-actualization. Stoics such as Marcus Aurelius and Seneca considered laziness an inner enemy that everyone must overcome. Laziness is the refusal to do one's duty, to follow one's nature. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You were created for labor, not idleness." We often put things off because we fear hardship or seek instant comfort. Procrastination seems harmless to us, but in reality it steals the most precious thing we have, time. Seneca warned, "It is not time that we lose, but life itself." Laziness is taking the easy way out, which only reinforces our weaknesses. Every day we face internal resistance. For example, you want to start an important endeavor, but there is a voice inside saying, "It's too hard, start tomorrow." It is in such moments that the Stoics advised us to remember that action is more important than any reflection. Even the smallest step forward strengthens the will. As Epictetus said, "Don't wait for things to get easier. Act now, with what you have." The path to defeating laziness begins with understanding its nature. It's not just a lack of motivation, it's the fear of starting. The Stoics taught that fear is only overcome by action. The more you procrastinate, the stronger this obstacle becomes. But each time you overcome yourself, you become stronger. The main thing is to start, even if it is a very small step. Our mind is the main tool with which we can overcome laziness and procrastination. But it often becomes our enemy. We look for excuses. We convince ourselves that tomorrow will be a better time. We put things off for later, forgetting that by doing so, we are depriving ourselves of the future. The Stoics taught that the mind is a tool that must be controlled, otherwise it will control you. Laziness and procrastination are most often based on fear. Fear of difficulty, fear of failure, or even fear of starting. Instead of tackling a task, we allow the mind to find distractions. It's easier for us to turn on a TV show or browse social media because it's effortless. But it's worth asking ourselves, how does this help me become a better person? Does this get me closer to my goal? This simple question helps us regain our focus and realize what distracts us from what's important. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You cannot control the outside world, but you can control yourself." This means that even if a task seems overwhelming or daunting, our attitude toward it is entirely up to us. The Stoics advise looking at actions through the lens of duty, not mood. Mood is a fickle thing. If you wait for inspiration to start something, you run the risk of never getting started. And duty is a solid foundation. Do what you have to do, and don't think about how comfortable it is. When you are faced with a daunting task, it can seem too overwhelming. We think, "This is impossible," or "I can't do it." But the problem is often not the task itself, but how we perceive it. The Stoics suggested breaking big goals into small steps. This is a technique that helps to reduce anxiety and get into action. Instead of thinking, "I need to write a whole book," start with one paragraph. Instead of planning a grand project, take one small but meaningful step. Small victories build confidence and give you motivation to keep going. Epictetus taught that freedom is achieved through discipline. Every time we choose action over inaction, our will becomes stronger. But discipline is not a gift. It requires daily practice. Like muscles, it needs to be strengthened step by step. Choosing small actions over distractions is an exercise that develops your willpower. Another important element is managing expectations. We often think we have to achieve the perfect result right away, and this paralyzes us. But the Stoics believe that it's important to value the process, not just the outcome. Do what you can with what you have, and remember that progress is made through consistency, not perfection. When you find it difficult to get started, ask yourself, what can I do right now? Let it be something small, but it will give you a sense of forward motion. Even if it's just preparing a workspace or writing a single sentence, it's already an action. And action is what overcomes laziness. Finally, it's important to remember that the mind is your ally if you learn to work with it. Replace "I can't" thoughts with "I'll try." Don't fight laziness through force. Fight it through mindfulness. As Marcus Aurelius said, live with what you have and act the best you can under the circumstances. Laziness and procrastination are temporary states, not permanent qualities. The more often you overcome them, the less often they will affect you. Action strengthens the will, and the will creates freedom. Remember that every small step brings you closer to a big result. Every day we are faced with the choice to act or to put things off until later. The Stoics taught that this choice shapes our personality and influences our destiny. Action is not just about accomplishing a task, it is a way to strengthen character and the mind. It's important to remember the longer we put things off, the harder it becomes to get started. The Stoics believed that action was the key to defeating laziness and procrastination. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do what needs to be done. Let nothing else bother you." This advice seems simple, but there is deep wisdom hidden in it. We often get distracted by unimportant things, losing focus. But the Stoics taught us to focus only on what really matters. One of the best ways to get into action is the rule of small steps. When a task seems too daunting, break it down into small, doable parts. For example, if you want to start exercising, start with a 5-minute workout. If you need to write a report, start with the first sentence. Small actions reduce fear and give you a sense of control. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of focusing on the present moment. Epictetus taught, "You cannot change the past, and the future is unknown to you. The only thing you can control is the here and now moment." Procrastination is often linked to thinking about the future. We worry about failing or putting things off, thinking there will be more time. But all we have is the present moment. Start making the most of it. Every action strengthens your will and helps you develop a habit of action. If you take action every day, even in small things, it will gradually change your life. It's not about achieving big goals at once, but about constantly moving forward. As Marcus Aurelius said, every day get better at what you do. Remember, action is your main tool in the fight against laziness. Even if it's one small step, it's already a forward movement. And it is only through action that we can achieve harmony and realize our goals. Laziness is not just an obstacle, it is a challenge that helps us grow. The Stoics taught that every difficulty we face is an opportunity to become stronger. Overcoming laziness not only allows us to achieve goals, but also builds character, making us more resilient and confident. It's important to realize that laziness and procrastination are not enemies to be hated, but coaches that test our resolve. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "An obstacle in the way becomes a path." This means that fighting laziness is itself a process that develops us. Every time you choose action over inaction, you become stronger. Overcoming laziness is a process, not an instant solution. It requires patience and consistency. The Stoics advise focusing on what we can control. You don't have to do everything perfectly, but you do have to take steps forward. Even small victories are important. Epictetus said, "Don't strive for perfection all at once. Work on yourself gradually, step by step." Every time you encounter laziness, ask yourself, what can I do right now to get better? Remember that progress comes through consistency. Choose an action every day, even if it seems insignificant. Small steps lead to big changes. Fighting laziness isn't just about accomplishing goals, it's about transforming your life. The Stoics taught that every moment is a chance to get better. And you can always start right now. Remember, only action leads to freedom and harmony.